They say the car you drive says a lot about you. That is absolutely correct. Behind me is a 1933 Ford pickup. What a eye candy. The owner, Mr. Richard Miller. How are you, sir?
Good. Welcome back, Doc.
You know him. We featured his Pierce Arrow, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and it was very well received. And he is the owner of this gorgeous yellow Ford pickup. Richard, tell me, what excites you? How do you find these kind of cars? I'm sure that usually these are not in this kind of situation or this finesse, and that's your job, how you bring it back to life. So what's the story behind this one?
Well, the story behind this one is that while it's in pristine shape today, about 3 years ago, it was wrecked. The whole front end of it was crushed in, and with a lot of help, it's been rebuilt to the condition you see it in today. I've done some of the work on this truck, but I have to give a lot of credit to a fellow by the name of Scott Clem, who owns the Desert Moon Custom and Rod Shop in Las Cruces, who he certainly did all of the collision repair. He did all the body work, the paint, and then he was upholstered at another really great shop in Arizona called the Arizona Hot Rod and Custom.
So then when you received it, you said it was wrecked, and how much of a wreck it was? It was like pretty bad, or it was unrecognizable?
Pretty well smashed from about right here forward. It had T-boned another car, and the frame was bent. The engine was off kilter. There was some damage to some engine components, not the block.
I always like the fact that these things are on hinges and how they open up like this. It's pretty much the same as a Pierce Arrow, but there's a difference of day and night because this is a different category, and Pierce Arrow is one of the luxury car of its time, 1930s. This is 1933 Ford. And so what are we looking at here?
This one has a Buick 231 V6 in it. Also has a turbo 350 transmission and a 9-inch Ford rear end. That's the drivetrain. It's got a 4-barrel carburetor on it. When we first started rebuilding this truck, my intention was, thought I was going to put a V8 in here. And of course, I'd like to see a Ford V8 in a Ford truck. But as you can see, there's very little room there for what we have. And the only way we could have put in a larger engine is we'd have had to cut into the firewall. And as you'll see when you look in the cab, there's not a whole lot of leg room in there to begin with. And I didn't want to sacrifice even a few inches of it. So
understandable.
I stayed with the V6 that was in it. Well, this is an original 1933 grill.
Okay.
It just wasn't part of this truck because the one I was on before was destroyed. And they're hard to find. There's not that many of them out there. Nobody's making a modern reproduction of it.
So these headlights here that we see, are these original or these are aftermarket most likely?
Oh, they're aftermarket, but they're exact reproductions of the originals. As I said before, that's part of what was destroyed in the crash. This was a very common arrangement for headlights in the 30s, mounted on a bar suspended between the two fenders. As we saw with the Pierce Arrow, that was, the very rare exception to that sort of configuration.
So the bumper is all steel?
It is.
Yeah.
It's chrome-bladed steel.
And this was supposed to be like this, or you just molded it this way?
That's exactly the way it was originally.
But this is also the aftermarket,
yes.
Probably fabricated with steel.
Correct.
A nice Ford logo there. And the Ford logo hasn't changed much, has it?
Well, why should you change something that's not broke? It's universally recognized.
Ford are nice cars. I just have one Ford Mustang. That's all I have. And it's a premium GT. It has 300 miles only. I bought it in 2013 and it's still there. Ford GT, a beautiful car. Now, for this side of the engine, is there anything extraordinary that you would like to point out in this?
It's pretty standard, street rod kind of configuration for a V6. It's got a lot of chrome on it. It's got headers, custom-made headers for this engine. Color-coordinated plug wires, a Holley full-barrel carburetor.
That's cool. Let's look at the other side and see what we see on the other side of the engine here. It's the same configuration, except we don't have a dipstick on this side. It's alternator on that side.
Correct.
And
Oil filter down here. Starter.
and then the oil filter. All right.
Heat
Well,
hoses.
pretty much the bread and butter of a L block engine V6, right?
Buick V6, correct.
Buick V6.
Yep.
This is interesting. This is the step
plate. Yep.
step plate saying Ford on it. Was it supposed to be there, or you just
No, it was there, and that is the original one that was on this truck. They survived the crash.
And what about these side mirrors?
No, these were the original ones as well.
I noticed that your license plate says 33 on it. What does it mean?
That's because that's an original 1933 New Mexico law.
Original plate.
It is.
So this plate itself is from 1933.
It is. In New Mexico, we have a law that's called a year of manufacture law, and if you have an old vehicle like this and you have a plate from that year, luckily back in those days, prior to 1960, they stamped the year of the plate's issue into the metal, so you get a new plate every year. So when you have a car this old from the 30s or 40s or 50s, if you can come up with an original license plate, you can actually register that plate to the car, provided that that number's not in use. And
it says truck on it. Usually nowadays these new plates don't say truck.
That's right. Yeah.
So
for a lot of years in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, they distinguished truck plates from car plates by not only stamping in the word truck, but also they were typically the reverse colors. In 1933, a car plate was yellow with red letters on it.
let's take a look at bed of this truck.
I made all of this bed out of red oak.
And you did yourself?
I did.
Okay.
And it's finished in a UV protection polyurethane.
How was the bed like when you got this truck? Was it wooden like this?
Yeah, it was wood. That's how they were originally in 1933. But the wood in here was very old and very discolored and rotted. So
all these pieces are new.
Yep.
And then obviously this is just a steel trunk you put in for the tools.
Well, actually what I have in here is the battery. You can see this is the battery for the car, and I keep a few cleaning supplies in there, so when I'm at car shows I can clean it up.
Okay.
But yeah, there's no room under the hood really for the battery, and I think in the original vehicle the battery might have been under the seat, and so
well, I think it's more easy to access.
That's true, and it's safer. I like the looks of white raised letters on my old street rods.
Look at the treads in there, man. Looks like never been driven.
Yeah, they're fairly new. They don't have many miles on them.
Okay.
All of the lighting in this was replaced with LED lighting, like the tail lights and the turn signal lights. All the interior lighting is all LED now, as opposed to the incandescents that were originally there.
So it was supposed to be like this, or?
Yeah, that's the original. Gas tank obviously is under the bed, and the filler neck just protrudes out there behind the fender.
And everything, when you said it was rigged from the front or the back?
Just the
rear was also
front.
So this was all?
Yeah, these are the same fenders and bed that were on it to begin with. Actually, the cab is the same as well. It just required some body work.
The interior is very interesting and complements very well the dark yellow with the little beige. It's not even a beige, but like a light brown goes very well with it. So please tell me about what the specifics of the interior.
Well, it's all leather, and as I mentioned before, it was done by the Arizona Hot Rod and Upholstery.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to show you is, if you'll take your arms off there, we put power windows on.
Okay, that is cool for that kind of era.
Yeah, tinted glass all around. And one thing that's noteworthy here is that in order to accommodate those window motors, I had to build this stepped out door panel here, because right behind this switch here is the mechanism that operates the window, and it stuck out so far, so they had to custom build this panel.
So all you do is just press that and it goes up and down.
Yeah, it looks like the original crank handle.
Yeah, that's what I was.
It's actually
neat.
Electric.
Neat. What is that? These are cup holders, or?
Yep, cup holders.
Or I know you have a couple of dogs. I was thinking it was for the dog food.
Yeah. Now,
Any dogs with you?
They don't get to come in here.
Okay, let me get in there and see how roomy it is. I mean, it's obviously a little tight, but Not bad at all.
I'm convinced that Americans were not as tall back then as they are today. You know,
And they were not as obese. I'm a doctor too, so
certainly not.
tell me about it. We have been fighting obesity for a long time, and sorry to say it's been getting worse. So guys, watch what you eat and exercise. Now, please describe us this beautiful gauge panel.
Yeah, these are originally this had very limited instrumentation, and I upgraded all of these to these are what are known as full sweep gauges. And instead of the needle moving just this far on a fuel gauge or something, they sweep the entire diameter of the gauge. And so you can see your empties here and full is way over here. Same thing with the
Battery, and that is okay.
oil pressure,
Gas, okay.
water temperature, miles per hour, of course.
And these are original gauges or these are aftermarket?
Oh, no. This is all modern aftermarket stuff. In fact, we had to modify the dashboard to fit this panel in here. Opening originally wasn't that big. One thing that's of interest is this indicator here. It shows that it's in park now. There's reverse, neutral.
Okay. And that was all aftermarket.
Of course.
Yeah. And this is the gear shift and the accelerator and brake, the steering column, and you match the color of the steering wheel with the upholstery. And this is original steering wheel, or?
Oh, no. It's modern. This is a type of steering wheel they call a banjo wheel. It's very common and rebuilt.
Okay, so you can adjust it this way.
Now I have turn signal indicators are here. Got the high beam indicator here.
Perfect. So here we are, guys, riding with Richard in this yellow grasshopper. And anything more exciting about the history of this car or the era that you can think of?
Well, to my mind, this is when American-made cars really started coming into their own. You know, we were, as we mentioned earlier, we were just after the Model A era, and Ford, Chevy, Buick, Oldsmobile, Hudson, Packard, they all really started advancing in terms of style, engineering, accessories that were available on the car. I think it's truly getting into it.
So how much was this car in that era, like 1933? What was the price of this?
It wasn't much. It was probably, I don't know exactly, but I think it's probably in the $600-700 range.
Yeah.
Like
That was more affordable. Like Ford Model T around that time was $400, you said.
Well, Model Ts were earlier in the 20s.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were $400 when they were new.
And
The Pilot T was long gone by the time this car was built.
what kind of horsepower it generates now after you slot the engine on it?
This engine's probably got a, I had it dynoed, so I don't know for sure, but it's probably in the vicinity of $200 now. It's a lot of,
Not bad for the body and the weight of the cabin.
the truck's very light. So this is plenty of engine.
And alrighty, this is a nice sound, a very deep hydraulic sound in there. Mr. Richard, thank you very much again for your time.
Yes, sir.
We really enjoyed filming this car, and I'm sure you had a blast also.
Always.
Guys, like, subscribe, and share, and let me know if you want to see anything particular on this channel, any kind of car. I will hunt it down for you so you can see it on this channel, which is growing very fast, and thanks to all of you and your interest in the channel. Remember, live life in the fast lane. You live one time. 24 hours in one day, 60 minutes in 1 hour, 60 seconds in 1 minute. Make use of that. Make it count. See you in the fast lane. Dr. Fastlane signing off.